Hey you, and welcome to lesson 19. Today we are going to talk about the reported speech in form of questions. We'll also talk about parallelism, how to make your sentence correct in English, and we will talk about phrasal verbs, separable or inseparable. So without further ado, let's get to it. Welcome to lesson 19. Today we are going to talk about reported speech. Let's take a look at some sentences and see if you notice the difference. Direct speech. Do you work from home? Do you work from home? This is a direct speech when you talk to someone. Indirect speech, he asked me if I worked from home. Notice how work became worked and we added asked. Let's take a look at another one. Who did you see? She asked me who I'd seen. So here, the first example, we started with the present simple and we changed it to the past simple. Here, we started with the past simple, did you, and we changed it to the past participle. So we always, when we are doing the indirect speech or we're doing the reported speech, what we do is we take the tense one step back. So if it's present, we change it to the past simple. If it's a past simple, we change it to the past perfect. Okay, let's take a look at more examples. Could you write that down for me? She asked me to write it down. Could you write that down for me? She asked me to write it down. This is a model verbs, so we treat it a little bit differently. Let's do a quick grammar explanation. A reported question is when we tell someone what another person asked. To do this, we can use direct speech or indirect speech. Direct speech, do you like working in sales? Indirect speech, he asked me if I liked working in sales. Direct speech, we change the question structure. Do you like? To a statement structure. I like. We also often make changes to the tenses and other words in the same way as for reported statements. Have done would become had done. Today would become that day. Now let's take a look at yes or no questions. In yes or no questions, we use if or whether. So we have these two tools, if and whether, to report a question. Are you going to the Helsinki conference? He asked me if I was going to the Helsinki conference. Have you finished the project yet? She asked us whether we had finished the project yet. So let's take a look here. Are you going to the Helsinki conference? He asked me if I was going. So the present continuous became a past continuous. And here, have you finished? This is present perfect. It changed to past perfect. So we always push the tense one step back. Questions with WH word. What, where, who, why, when, or how. We use a question word to report the question. What time does the train leave? He asked me what time the train left. So we kept everything the same. We changed the verb from the present to the past. He asked me what time the present left. We didn't include the does because if we include the does, then we must use the infinitive form of the verb or the base form of the verb. You know, with the do auxiliaries, we always have to use the base form of the verb. But we removed the do auxiliary, which is does in this case, so we can push the tense one step back. Where did he go? She asked me where he went. Again, we remove the did because if we use it, we need to use the base form of the verb, which is go. So we removed it and we said, she asked me where I went. So when we're making questions, we can use ask, or we can make if and whether if it's a yes and no question. Reporting verbs. The most common reporting verbs for questions is ask. So normally when we report questions, we mostly use ask. So if I ask you, what are you doing? She asked me what I was doing, or he asked me what I was doing. We can also replace ask. Well, it's the most common one, but we're not limited to using ask. We can also use inquire, want to know, or wonder. Okay, so if, for example, if I ask you, what do you want for lunch? I could say, he inquired what I wanted for lunch. Or we can say, he wanted to know what I wanted for lunch. Or we can also say, he wondered what I wanted for lunch. So those are all synonyms that we can use to replace ask. Did you bring your passports? She wanted to know if they had brought their passports. Here is did, so we use the past perfect. When could you get this done by? When could you get this done by? He wondered when we could get it done by. Modal verbs, when it comes to reported speech and modal verbs, we use the modal verb as they are. Offers and requests and suggestions. If the question is making an offer or a request or a suggestion, we can use a specific verb pattern instead. Let's take a look. Would you like me to help you? He offered to help me. So, because it is an offer, we can just replace it with the verb offer. He offered to help me. Can you hold this for me, please? She asked me to hold it. Why don't we check with Joel? She suggested checking with Joel. Now, let's move on from reported speech and talk about something we call parallelism. What is parallelism? If you have two lines, two straight lines running alongside each other, we call those two lines parallel. Two parallel lines, just like so. If you have this line and this line, whoops, this line and this line, these two lines are parallel. Okay, so what does it mean? What's parallelism mean? It means that there has to be a balance between both parts of the sentence, otherwise the sentence will be incorrect. Again, what does that mean? The only way to explain it is by looking at the examples. So let's take a look. Nancy likes playing the piano, the trumpet, and play the guitar. This is absolutely incorrect. This is not good English. Why? Because, as you can see, Nancy likes playing the piano, the trumpet, and play the guitar. There is no balance in the sentence. As you can see, play the guitar, playing the piano, the trumpet, and the trumpet. So if we want to make this sentence correct, we need to make it balanced. And that is shown in this sentence. Nancy likes the piano, the trumpet, and the guitar. See, the piano, the trumpet, and the guitar. Not she likes playing the piano, the trumpet, and she likes play the guitar. It's imbalanced. Okay, let's take a look at another sentence. Nancy likes playing the piano, the trumpet, and the guitar. This is also correct because they all follow the same structure. She played basketball, had a shower, and gone to school. Okay, this is not right. Why? Because we use the past simple in the first part of the sentence. She played. As you can see, all right, hold on, let me change this color. I don't like this color. Yeah. Nancy, or she, played basketball, had a shower. So we use past simple, and gone to school as past participle. So it's imbalanced. We need to restructure the sentence and use the same tense all throughout the sentence. She played basketball, had a shower, and went to school. All right, let's take a look at another example. You can apply to the job by filling this form or apply by the telephone. Okay, again, this is not balanced. Now let's take a look at the correct form. You can apply to the job by filling this form, or you can apply by telephone. Okay, so because we use the model here, we need to use a model in the second part of the sentence. So we need to use two models to make the sentence in balance. We use modal verb in the first part of the sentence. We use modal verb in the second part of the sentence. Or we skip the modal verb in the first part and we skip it in the second part. This is called parallelism. All right, let's talk about rules of parallelism. First rule of parallelism is parallelism is used with elements joined by coordinating conjunctions. Now remember what coordinating conjunctions are. We talked about them in the previous class. We said coordinating conjunctions are conjunctions that use to connect or join two sentences into a one longer sentence. Like and, so, but, because. They use to join the sentences. So for example, if we look at this sentence, my mother likes cooking and to read. Now cooking here is a gerund. Remember what a gerund is? We discussed this before. We said a gerund is a verb that was converted into a noun. Okay, so it's no longer a verb, it's a gerund. That means it's a noun. Okay, now if there is no verb to be in the sentence, then we know it's a gerund. Like this sentence, my mother likes cooking. If the use of ing is justified, we need an is to make the sentence correct. My mother is cooking. Now, if there is no is, then what is the reason we use ing with the verb? The only reason is because it is not a verb in the first place. It is a gerund. It is a noun. Therefore, it is a gerund. My mother likes cooking and to read. This is wrong because we don't use one gerund and one verb. We either use one verb and one verb, and then the sentence is correct because it's balanced, or we use one gerund and one gerund, and the sentence is again correct. Let's take a look. So if you want to correct the sentence, we say my mother likes cooking and reading. We use two gerunds. Or my mother likes to cook and she likes to read. Now let's take a look at the second rule of parallelism. Parallelism is used with elements in list or series. Okay, so if we have a list of things, okay, we use parallelism. So we need to make sure that they all follow the same structure, or the sentence will not be balanced. This task can be done individually, in pairs, or can be done in groups. This is not correct. Why? Because we use can at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, let's change this tool. We use can at the beginning of the sentence, and then we listed the items, so we don't need to use can again unless we use can for each item, which would sound weird. Okay, so if we want to correct the sentence, we can say this task can be done individually, in pairs, or in groups of four, or we can use can with every element in the series to make it correct. And we can say this task can be done individually, it can be done in pairs, or it can be done in group of fours. Then it will be correct. But that will make the sentence too long, so we can just use can on the beginning of the sentence and then list all the items. Let's take a look at the next rule of parallelism. Parallelism is used with elements being compared. So if we have comparison going on, we use parallelism. Let's take a look. She is mad about watching TV more than to read. Okay, now this is this is obviously incorrect. If you want to correct this, we will say she is mad about watching TV more than reading, because we have to use the same pattern. We need to follow the same pattern, guys. So watching, reading, not watching and to read, right? This is again a classic example of imbalance. Now let's take a look at the next one. Parallelism is used with element joined by a linking verb. Linking verbs are, we use linking verbs to make connection between two parts of the sentences. Okay, let's take a look. To learn is understanding the world. No. To learn is understanding the world, not right. To learn is to understand. We use the same pattern. We started with to learn, we cannot change to ing. We started with to learn, we ended with to understand, right? Or we started, if you want to start with ing, you end it with ing. So this example will be correct if we said to learn is to understand, or learning is understanding, then that will be correct. But we don't say learning is to understand, or to understand is learning, right? Because there will be no balance. Let's take a look at the last rule of parallelism. Parallelism is used with elements joined by linking words. So just like the previous example, we use a linking verb. Here we'll use a linking word. The teacher not only wants his students to keep quiet, but also to do the task. Okay? What is the mistake here? The teacher not only wants his students to keep quiet, but also to do the task. The correct sentence will be, the teacher wants his students not only to keep quiet, but also to do the task. So you see the use of the linking verb here? The linking words, not only, but also. Not only, but also. This is the linking verbs. So the teacher not only wants his students to keep quiet, but also to do the task. This is false. The correct sentence will be, the teacher wants his students not only to keep quiet, but also to do the task. Now let's move on to separable or inseparable. Now what does that mean? Separable, here we're talking about phrasal verbs, right? Remember phrasal verbs, we've studied them previously several times. Phrasal verbs are basically a verb and a preposition or an adverb that when we put together, they make new meaning in most cases. Sometimes we have literal phrasal verbs, that means they mean exactly what they sound like, or that we have idiomatic phrasal verbs, which when we combine those two, we get a new meaning. Like for example, hang on, hang on. You know what hang means? To hang on is on. But if we put them together, hang on, it will mean to wait. So this is an example of an idiomatic phrasal verb. Now, phrasal verb could be separable or inseparable. Separable, it means we can separate them. We can separate the verb from the preposition or the adverb, and it will be correct. But sometimes they are inseparable. It means they have to come together, otherwise the sentence will not be correct. So let's take a look at some example of the separable phrasal verbs. You can insert the word, okay, so let's take a look at example. I need to take back the shirt. So the phrasal verb here is take back. Where are you? Take back. Okay, this is separable because we can say I need to take back the shirt, or we can say I need to take the shirt back. Where is it? Or take it back. So it refers to the shirt. So you can say I can take back the shirt, or take it back, or you can say take the shirt back. So in case of take back, it is separable. We can use it together, or we can separate the verb from its preposition and put the noun in between. Inseparable phrasal verbs. Now, with these guys, we cannot separate them. They have to come together. For example, if you focus your education solely on one area, you will have nothing to fall back on if you change your mind. So fall back on is a phrasal verb that cannot be separable. It has to come together. Fall back on. We cannot say fall your education back on. You have to say fall back. Fall back as a one set. So you can either you can fall back on your education, or you can fall back on your wealth. You can fall back on something, but you cannot fall your education back, because that will just, first of all, it wouldn't make sense, and number two, it will be incorrect. Okay, let's take another example of inseparable phrasal verb, get on or get off. Get on and get off are used together. We cannot separate them. Not get the car on, get on, or get the bus on. You get on the bus. You get on the bus. You cannot get the bus on. So this is inseparable. Same thing with get off. Like, for example, get off the bus, or you cannot say get the bus off. Another one, run into. Run into, it's inseparable. We cannot, you run into someone, it means you meet someone coincidentally without previous plan, or you meet someone accidentally. So you say, I run into Michelle at the supermarket. You cannot say, I run Michelle into. That will just be wrong. Okay, so this will be it for today, guys. Don't skip the quiz, and I'll see you next class.